Hello, everyone. This is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Today, we are exploring the high stakes intersection of autonomous cloud infrastructure, feature management, and developer operations. In 2026, as generative AI models write software directly into production at staggering speeds, enterprises must completely transition from passive system monitoring to active, automated engineering guardrails. Joining us today is Andrew Norris, Principal Product Manager for Go to Market Strategy at Dynatrace. A seasoned technology entrepreneur, Andrew focused Taplytics in 2011, evolving it into a premier feature management platform, DevCycle, which was successfully acquired by Dynatrace in January 2026. He is an expert in cloud observability, progressive code delivery, and navigating complex digital ecosystems. So, before further ado, let's welcome this very special guest. Andrew, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Kripa, for having me today. Yeah, excited to share what we've been up to and some learnings for all the founders and entrepreneurs out there.
Of course. Now, Andrew, Dynatrace frequently discusses moving past traditional passive system monitoring towards what you describe as an active control plane. So let's start the conversation by understanding what does an active control plane mean for modern software teams? So go ahead and explain from a layman's perspective.
Sure. So traditional monitoring was really more about watching your system, dashboarding, being able to see signals around what the runtime behavior of your systems and applications are. Where we're seeing things move to is the new expectation is really around creating the ability to control what actually happens and let you act on it in real time. So where the old model is sort of more passive, monitoring, sort of taking in sort of after something broke, and then you scramble to put a fix together. Instead of staring at a dashboard all day, the whole idea of what we're building within Dynatrace is a control plane that sort of closes the loop between identifying and seeing what the problem is and fixing it. So feature flagging, which is my background as the former founder of DevCycle, really is that capability to control at a code level, the ability to turn on and off different pieces of functionality. Think of it, the very layman understanding of a feature flag is no more than an on-off switch on your code. So as new capabilities are created by engineers and you want to be able to turn them on for either all users or a portion of your users, that's where feature flags come in. So that really is the control part of the control plane equation, where an observability platform like Dynatrace allows you to understand what's happening, why it's happening. And then the feature flag, as long as you've implemented it properly, will allow you to come in and disable it. So instead of having to put a war room together at 2 a.m. because a deploy didn't work, you get a signal and you can take action immediately to be able to turn off the offending change that happened.
Very interesting, because moving from simple post-incident alerts to a dynamic control environment, it lets your architecture automatically fix performance bottlenecks before they hit the end user. So that's great to know. Let's now talk about managing the risks of AI-driven software development. So you mentioned DevCycle. So for our listeners, go ahead and share that story. Why did you start DevCycle? And also, how does DevCycle help reduce the risks of AI-generated code?
Yeah, so we've been building software in the dev tool space really for 14 years before we got acquired by Dynatrace. And DevCycle was initially an offshoot project for us as sort of a second product line, where we started getting frustrated ourselves as an engineering team of the ability and the sort of way that traditional feature flagging was done, both by our software and by other players out there in the feature management, feature flagging space. And so for us, creating a platform that really matched the way that modern engineering and development teams actually operated, taking the concept of instead of just putting in sort of emergency brakes, which is sort of the traditional use case for feature flags, really allowing feature flags to be part of the development workflow and shepherd code from the different stages of development, testing, release out to a early beta audience, and then wide to the general public. Creating a platform that allowed you to be able to easily control that and take what could be hundreds or thousands of flags and really put them in a structure that's a lot easier to manage, a lot easier to see what is actually happening. And yeah, for us, this was sort of just best practices of how modern development works. That has changed. The way that software has been built has significantly changed in the last couple of years, since 2022 even, where AI is, developing with coding agents has sort of become the default for most, if not a lot of the teams. And feature flags is actually, from our experience, in my opinion, is really the unlock for teams to be able to run at the pace that AI generated code allows you to ship that out. But obviously you don't want to just put out, vibe coded slop code out there to the world. Being able to control who gets exposed to the new code that you're developing as a team, internally first, behind feature flags. It allows you to test it out with a smaller test audience. And doing it where you're sort of separating the concept of shipping from separating a release from shipping to prod. So you can ship to prod and see with observability what's actually happening to the code that you're releasing. What is the AI agent built towards? Is it impacting the performance? Is it creating issues? Are we seeing a negative sort of business signal around the feature that's been put out? And you can capture that information before you go wide and actually impact end users. So for small teams, for big, large enterprises, doing AI development without feature flagging, to be honest, without a safety net, to me, it creates inherent risk. It's a little irresponsible from our perspective. And that's why we see the software industry move to where using feature flags is like flossing. Everyone knows they should do it. To this has become mission critical. We're not going to be able to ship code at the speed and the quality that we expect without putting it behind a feature flag first.
Definitely. I think you've put this again very well together, because utilizing automated feature flags, it gives your team an instant kill switch to isolate AI written code strings before they fracture your live application layer out there. And very interesting times we're living in right now, right?
Yes.
Every 2 to 3 years, some big changes coming and changing the trajectory of where we are going. But let's now talk about reducing alert fatigue and telemetry overload in cloud operations as well. So, firstly, from a layman's perspective, what is telemetry overload, and how can engineering teams reduce that noise and focus on critical system signals? Go ahead.
Yeah, so in the observability space for the last few years, I would say the barrier to entry to be able to hook all of your systems and all of your code and all of your runtime environments up with signals and tracking has become easier and easier, and that is a good thing. It gives you a lot of context. The problem is it becomes overwhelming. So it really, the noise aspect of telemetry really isn't a data problem. It's more of a correlation problem. The answers that a team's looking for, they're not missing. They're more buried under a mountain of alerts and concerns. You're not sure which ones you should prioritize. So for entrepreneurs, the way to sort of think about this category is like metrics at the fundamental level tell you what has changed. Logs and traces are very helpful to help you tell why something changed. And being able to signal out that noise really comes from usually teams that are trying to correlate those two things in separate tools instead of like making a direct connection to them. And that's sort of what prevents a lot of teams from just trying to figure out a root cause and sort of flipping back and forth between two data sets to figure that out. A consolidated platform like Dynatrace really obviously structurally helps with that. My advice for teams is like the first move to avoid overload is like happen upstream of the process, so before ingestion. So like standardizing your telemetry at the source, understanding what's worth keeping stored and what signals to sort of ignore. The top level of the funnel is most important. The other trigger, and we've seen this ourselves, building software for over a decade, is teams can get burned out by alert fatigue. So if everything pages you in the middle of the night, nothing does. Teams get, it's the boy who cried wolf syndrome. And so tuning those signals and alerts to understand the criticality of it and the context of what's the blast radius of the problem is really important to spend time and effort to do that. The nice thing is, the AI tools are starting to really help filter through that and correlate, the signals, the metrics to the code changes that have happened, and really give you a 360 view of how important is this really? What do I need to action on immediately? What do I need to turn that feature flag on and off for? And what can I, hand off to the team to investigate later, and resolve in due course. So, for small teams, use open telemetry, use open standards approaches to capture this, which gives you flexibility to move to different platforms and ways of viewing the data over time. That's a big recommendation. Make sure your data is well connected, and instead of keeping data in silos, make your bet, but do it on open telemetry, so you have the option to be able to find the right interface, the right platform for you at the stage that you're at, and be able to move without a lot of pain or disruption of the sort of ongoing operations of your engineering team.
Beautiful. I think building on what you've said, before we go any further into the conversation, I'd like to give a special message to all of our listeners now, specifically to all the tech founders, CTOs, and product directors watching. In 2026, relying on slow, manual code reviews is a massive operational liability. Andrew and the team at Dynatrace are setting an entirely new standard for autonomous operations with the official integration of DevCycle's progressive delivery platform into their AI-powered software intelligence ecosystem. This unified infrastructure allows mid-market and enterprise teams to confidently monitor, analyze, and optimize complex cloud deployments under strict automated guardrails. So if you are ready to eliminate fragmented tools, protect your stack from shadow AI, code anomalies, and drive real-time business outcomes, visit dynatrace.com today. That is dynatrace.com, and future-proof your engineering pipeline with a global leader in cloud observability. Now, coming back to you, Andrew, relying on unified context-rich AI analytics, it allows your DevOps team to solve true root cause vulnerabilities instead of chasing phantom dashboard alerts. Loving where the conversation is going. And now I'd like to briefly touch upon the growing gap between technical and commercial teams. So, from your extensive experience, Andrew, why is the growing gap between engineering and business teams a major risk? Go ahead.
Yeah, and our history as a platform, and history as founders, sort of like mirrors this. We started with generating software for the business team to be able to run experiments, understand the impact of the changes they're having on user behavior, on sales, on revenue, all of that, and we bridge that gap to now support engineering teams as well with feature flags and observability signals. And I think where we see there's a growing sort of like cultural siloing that happens between the teams that are responsible for the P&L, the success or failure of products and businesses, and those who are actually building them. Obviously, we want software that works and works reliably, but to do that without pulling in the signals and understanding of what impact it's actually having on the business, what impact is positively or negatively having on customers, is just wasted effort. So I think, what we recommended best practices for our platform, and really one of the sort of key reasons we built DevCycle the way we are, and some of the considerations as we're deeply integrating it into Dynatrace is, how do we make it easier for both engineers to put in the work to be able to understand and capture the signals around the performance of the platform technically, but then be able to hand it off to PMs, business owners, technical marketing folks to be able to add the layer of what impact on the business is this having, and be able to look at those in one consolidated piece where you can see, okay, technically this is working fine, but it's actually having really negative impact on these certain signals. Being able to have that view in one place is super important for especially at sort of early stage companies. Large companies too run into the same problem all the time. But if you're a lean organization, it's an existential risk to you to spend weeks or months building a capability that has no material impact on the trajectory and growth of your business. So being able to make sure as you're setting up both the IT infrastructure and the engineering signals, that you don't forget about the business metrics, what impact it's having on customer acquisition, on time inside the platform, if there's conversion points to put in a credit card or purchase something. Having all those in the same place is really important, to be watching those on a continuous basis and be able to make the decision, not just like, is this turned on and off, not just for technical reasons, but also for business reasons. And so, that would be my, like, if anything, taking away from today, having those two data points in the same picture and in the same conversation is the difference between success or failure for a lot of companies.
Wow. I think aligning your commercial pipeline velocity with your automated software output is the only way to ensure your customers actually experience the value that you're building. Here's a question for you on that note. You've been on both the sides. So what is more difficult, building the product or selling it?
Selling it. No question. I mean, this, and this, 14 years ago, it was a lot harder to build software than it is today with all the AI tools. One thing that I learned very early in my career, and from mentors and advisors, even before I started my entrepreneurial journey, at the end of the day, every business is a customer service business. And being able to build true trusted relationships with folks is the difference between a nice technology that has edge use cases and a real business that can grow and scale and get folks trusting you to go along with the mission and the problems that you're trying to solve. So yeah, for us, that's the part of the business that, unfortunately, there's no easy answers for, because it's all dependent on who you're selling to, the market context, the macroeconomic context, the funding you have available. There's no silver bullet solution to any of it, but it's all about testing, iterating, trying new things, and with all these AI tools that we have out there, still leveling it with a degree of human connection and personal trust building that you can't just hand off to an agent to do. You have to have real people that your customers trust and can work with. And yes, they can move faster with AI tools, and that's all great. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship building exercise. And if you're not focusing on customer experience and customer service as a key part of your plan of how you're going to scale, you're missing sort of the heart of things.
I love how you've beautifully blended it into, the trust factor with the technology partner in as well, because treating developer skepticism as an operational roadmap rather than a sales rejection, it allows you to engineer products centered purely on functional utility and value. I'm loving this conversation today, and definitely I'd love for you to be back, hopefully for an in-person episode that we do the next with you. But for now, before we let you go, if there's one final piece of advice that you have for our leaders today who are struggling with cloud deployment complexity, if you, Andrew, could whisper one thing into their ears, what would you say and why?
Yeah, so I think stop trying to make deploys perfect, make them reversible. So the goal that you should be setting for cloud deployments is resilience, not perfection. Assume that things are going to go wrong and be able to pull them back. And feature flags and hooking up observability tools give you that ability to ship code to production effectively turned off, understand the impact, and then control the exposure as a separate decision-making process. And that sort of like will give everyone a lot, better night's sleep and releasing more perfect software out into the world.
That is an exceptional reminder that your product roadmap must always prioritize solving the core operational friction of the end developer. Andrew, it was such a special episode. Thank you so much for being here and doing this with us.
Thanks, Kripa. It's great meeting you.
All right, that was Andrew Norris from Dynatrace, a masterclass in executing progressive software delivery, controlling AI code variables in production, and understanding how autonomous observability is redefining global cloud operations in 2026. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more such resources. To learn more about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit the Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smbfoundation.ca. And lastly, a very special thank you to our partners, UPS, our shipping partner, and ADP, our HR partner, for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada. I'll see you all in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.